Welcome to season 2 of the Big Red Roundtable, the monthly show that features two fan podcasts discussing and debating all things Husker football during the offseason. For the first time since August, Scott and I are joined in studio by Justin, Derrick, and Tyler from the Husker Podcast, and we will be revealing the results later tonight of the over-under game that we played back in August. Trust me, it will be underwhelming. Before we get to those results, though, a lot has happened since the last time all 5 of us were on a stream together, most notably the firing of Scott Frost, the recent hiring of Matt Rhule, whose choices so far as his assistant coaching staff have a few folks, including a few on this stream, a little up in arms. I believe we can all agree that we're really tired of watching head coaches come and go, along with staffs full of assistants that we thought would work out, but didn't. So I get the trepidation. Trust me, I've got doubts myself. So the question that we will attempt to answer tonight is, do these coaches, these choice of coaches by Coach Rhule, signify a fresh new start with serious potential for future greatness, or will it just be meh, as usual, right? So that is the backdrop. So let's start off by talking about the coaches. Shall I just go ahead and throw the slideshow up there, guys, and we just go through them one by one, or do you have some overall thoughts you wanted to start out with?
Let's do it. Go ahead.
All right. So let's make sure I get the right freaking slideshow. There it is. That's the right slideshow. Hey, look, nothing's covered up by our cameras. That's pretty awesome. There we go. Head coach. Man, Matt Rhule, 7 total years as a head coach, just over 500 record. Baylor, he was 19-20 in 3 seasons, 28-23 at Temple. 4 bowl games, 3 wins, 1 loss, won 10 games or more 3 times, but also won less than 7 games 3 times. So he's kind of one of those guys that has those meteoric rises and then takes off to the next job. And then, of course, we knew what happened at Carolina, which wasn't great. But there you go. Finished 2 seasons ranked in the top 25, including 1 in the top 15. I know you guys talked about Rhule on kind of, I believe it was your last show, where you kind of rated the hire and took a look at some of the assistants he had hired up to that point. And I thought the consensus at that point in that show was that the 3 of you were pretty cool with the Matt Rhule hire, right?
I guess. I think me and Derrick were a lot higher on him than what Tyler was. But
I mean, I think he is one of the best hires. I mean, if you look at this last cycle of coaches hired, I mean, I put him right near the top of the list of best guys that could have been hired. So I think if you look at the history of Nebraska, I mean, we have not made a lot of splash hires. This is a splash hire. So yes, there are certain things I don't love about him. I lived in Charlotte for a while. But that is part of it. Just bluntly, if you were a fan of the NFL team and you grabbed their worst coach ever, then you probably would have a little bit of a backlog. But I know college is different, and I can do that. So I don't know. But yeah, that's fair, Justin. I'm probably the coolest on this hire. Still like it.
You're on mute, Ken.
My bad. I'm still getting used to this new board. I'm kind of the same way. I wouldn't say I'm cool on the hire. I was a little warmer on it when he was first hired than I am now, because I do agree with you guys in a lot of ways about the coaches. It seems to be on the surface a lackluster set of guys that he's brought in, but they're his guys, and I guess at some point we've got to trust that he knows what he's doing as far as the process is concerned. Derrick, did you want to say anything specific about Rhule or you, Scott, or do we just want to go ahead and move on to the fun part, the assistants?
Well, I could always, I'm not going to go off or go on a tirade about Rhule, because we'd already kind of had at least a brief discussion about it in our last episode. But I will definitely make sure to tie him in to these assistant coaches that we're going to discuss, because I think they all kind of have a little bit of a trend. So that's all I'll say.
Yep, they definitely do. You are correct about that. So let's move to coach number one, which we'll start with all the offensive guys, and then we'll move on to the defensive. So that way we can get the fun discussion of one particular coach out of the way fairly early. So first off, we've got, whoops, I hit the wrong slideshow. There we go. Marcus Satterfield. Boy, I'm still going to have a hard time with that name. Temple, as a Rhule assistant, he was there. Coaching offensive coordinator and QBs 2013, 2014, and then offensive coordinator running backs 2015. Baylor tight end coach from 2018 through 2019, and a Carolina assistant offensive line coach in 2020. And then he spent a couple years at Tennessee Chattanooga as a head coach. His last job, of course, was South Carolina. As you told me, Justin, on a phone call when we talked a little bit earlier this last week, that a lot of the folks in South Carolina are pretty happy to see Marcus go. What is it that you've heard specific from those fans as to why? Is there a particular part of his offense that people don't like? Is there a reason they're just glad he's gone, even though they did do as well as they did those last two games?
So we have, me and the cousins, we have lots of cousins, actually. So, I mean, if we were to do a podcast with all of our cousins, there'd be like, I don't know, 40 or more. But we have two cousins that graduated from South Carolina, and they're big cocks. Big freaking cocks, right? And huge. Anyway, they
Huge.
are not... I don't know. I don't think that they thought this... they weren't excited that he was, because they're also Nebraska fans also, but they weren't excited about him going to Nebraska, and they were kind of happy. One of them was kind of happy that he was there. One of them was a little bit curious to see what he could do next year based off of his final two games at South Carolina. But that whole stretch when he was at South Carolina did not give them any reason to be happy about him remaining there in South Carolina. Tyler, you talked to Ryan and Sean quite a bit. Is that the impression you get too?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they were definitely not crushed that we took him. And they, from a game clock perspective, and they definitely weren't doing backflips that we got him. I think they were very much like a lukewarm position, and I was trying to think of a good like equivalent for Nebraska. And honestly, I can't think of anyone on the current staff that would probably have like fallen in that bucket. Like, maybe Mark Whipple a little bit, but I think by the time Whipple left, people were pretty happy that he wasn't being brought back. So I can't really find a parallel, but I think they were just kind of lukewarm on him leaving and lukewarm on him coming to Nebraska. And yeah, I mean, we definitely did not steal South Carolina's soul with this hire.
Exactly. Yeah. It wasn't a steal.
And here's why. Ken, you want to talk about the last two games? Man, even with those last two games, their total offense only ranked 75th in the country.
Yeah, it wasn't much better than ours, right?
And if you take those two games away, they were 96th.
For 79, yeah.
So
I got you.
They were 45th in scoring offense, so middle of the road. You take those two games away, they dropped down to 65th. Like, those two games really improved what that offense really looked like throughout the year.
I got you. Scott, you got any thoughts? I mean, I know we kind of talked about him before, but...
Yeah, I mean, it is very underwhelming. It's a very underwhelming hire. I mean, yeah, he's 75th. He's 75th in the country, and then what is it? 9th in the SEC. And from the previous year, he was 110th as an offensive coordinator and almost dead last, just right behind Vanderbilt. And so technically there was an improvement, but I mean, he had some pretty good talent to work with at South Carolina. And the fact that he wasn't able to put together a consistent game plan, game in, game out, I don't know if it was he couldn't get his guys to just stay locked in. Because, I mean, yeah, the last two games were impressive. But, I mean, you got to show that game in, game out. I think that those were just individual performances more than it was 500 IQ offensive coordinating. So definitely an underwhelming hire.
But can I just throw in there? I understand maybe not a wow, but when you are taking a standing coordinator from an SEC school, this isn't a guy who just got fired. He would have been brought back. I mean, all signs pointed. I just think that the bar is, I don't know. It's not a bad get. I mean, to take a standing guy, and again, he was part of Baylor, which is what you can't say about everyone on the staff. And he was part of Temple, so he has been a ride or die with Rhule. So I don't know.
Let's hope he doesn't bring that rushing offense with him, because I got some bad news for you. Guess who he tied with in rushing offense this year? Nebraska. Dead even for 99th in the country.
Marcus Satterfield, I think you summed it up pretty well there, Scott. It is underwhelming for what we thought we were going to get. The only thing that could make this really bad for me and leave a sour taste is if he were to bring Spencer Rattler with him from South Carolina to Nebraska. I would absolutely despise that move.
The only thing that would make it better is if he showed up and his teammates strapped him to a chair and dyed his eyebrows brown or something like that.
You know what? I'm actually here. Bring Rattler. I'm all for it.
Are you for Rattler for real?
I think he's a good quarterback.
I just think he's toxic for the locker room.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a leader. That would be the only yeah, he's a baller.
Tyler's an army
clearly
of one
talented
right there with being on the Spencer Rattler bandwagon there. That's crazy.
Well,
Spencer Rattler's the only reason Marcus Satterfield offense looked any but good this year.
Oh yeah, because that's the common denominator between last year and this year was he got a good quarterback.
Who would you rather have? Casey Thompson working in Satterfield's offense or bringing Rattler to Nebraska?
Casey Thompson.
Knowing what you're going to have at wide receiver, really.
I don't know. The offensive line didn't apparently like Casey Thompson too well either.
No, they didn't. They certainly didn't. Apparently, they didn't like the steak he took him out for when he first got to town.
He probably ordered
take him to Applebee's.
No,
he ordered them all well done, which is what inspired them to start jerky, because they were like, if we're gonna get well done steaks, we're at least gonna make a jerky company out of this.
Oh Lord, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I don't remember what the name of the place was he took him to, but it was a steak buffet of some sort.
It was Applebee's.
They did all they could to.
I'm just kidding. Golden Corral.
Run him out. One. Yeah, Hey, that would. I've had
took
Golden Corral, and it was not kind to me. So if he took him there, that'd have been bad.
Anyway,
the next hire we'll talk about is running backs coach EJ Barthel. This is a guy that's kind of in my top as far as a guy that I see as potential, simply because I know everybody wants to take a look at UConn and say, well, look at the competition they had to play and all that stuff. How did he? But anytime you take any kind of an offense or any kind of a rushing game from bottom of their conference or bottom of the independents and take it up into the top 2 or 3 teams amongst the independents, I think you're doing something pretty good. So if you look, I just looked up just a few stats. UConn's 2021 rushing yardage was 1,195 yards, 3.16 yards per carry, 18 touchdowns, 99.6 yards per game. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? And then in 2022, when he got there, it was 2,339 yards, 4.8 per carry, 18 TDs yet again, but doubled up on the yards per game to 194.92. So ranked second out of 7 independents and ended up with the 32nd ranked rushing offense in the NCAA. So for me, this is kind of with that guy that I'm kind of eyeballing to see where this rushing offense goes with him and how well one of the other guys that was retained on this offensive staff, how they work together to get that running game hopefully off the ground or on the ground, I guess, if you will. But just whoever wants to start, who's got some thoughts on EJ Barthel, throw them out there.
I'll say this: when we first hired this guy, I was very underwhelmed. I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" I looked numbers. I wasn't overly impressed, but I will say this: I'm hearing a lot of good stories out of the recruiting trail already. He's growing on me pretty fast.
Well, what also is interesting is, you saw the tweets. Jim Morris sent out a glowing recommendation for him in a tweet. So that was pretty cool. I don't know how often a head coach or how common it is for a head coach to speak that glowingly of a coach that's leaving the program. It just seemed like I don't see it very often. And when Jim Mora did that for EJ Barthel, I just thought that was like, wow, okay, maybe there is something here. So, yeah, I think he's got definitely potential. I don't hate the hire at all.
I think everybody would agree. He's got potential. But he doesn't really have necessarily an eye-popping resume other than just the fact that he was able to do what he did at UConn in 1 year is like, okay, I see you. I see what you're doing. But if I were to just compare him to, let's just say, Brian Applewhite and just what kind of track record he's got, he doesn't have one. And so it's basically a gamble. It's a roll of the dice. Maybe he's got a really good philosophy. I mean, I'd assume that's what he's got. I assume he's got a really good philosophy. He connects with the players. And like you said, heard some good things on Reddit and seen a few things on Twitter about his recruiting ability. And we'll see how it all plays out. But once again, it just kind of follows the trend of just being like, I have to try to find something. Like I have to try hard to find something to like about him. And it just makes me kind of go, meh.
So if you want to find something to like about him, I mean, he was at UConn, right? UConn has been a bottom dweller for a long, long, long time. And UConn had a really good year this year. I'm not saying it's all because of EJ Barthel there, but Jim Mora, he did outstanding things with him. And I think EJ Barthel with the hand that he was dealt there with all the injuries, he excelled. He completely excelled in that running backs room. So you could actually see something in just that 1 year at UConn that he made huge progress in a doormat of a program. So he coached those dudes up. So I will give that to him. If you can do that UConn, I mean, you can go places, especially with good talent.
Well, I got a question for you guys, and I don't have an answer for it. So, did UConn switch offensive line coaches too? Or is this an offensive line coach that's been around for a while? I mean, I guess where I'm getting at is, does the offensive line get some credit for what his running backs were doing? Or is it all on this coach that made him start running better?
It was all EJ. EJ did it all. I think he helped run the ball. I think he went in there a couple snaps.
Went in and blocked for his running backs.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, what you're getting. I mean, you want to talk about he's definitely a vibrant, active coach, who I think is going to bring a lot of great energy to this position. Scott, I think your point on Applewhite is an interesting one. I think you could say that about a couple coaches we brought in, where it's just, we were a 4-8 team last year. And when you're like, man, the guy they're replacing, I think's a better coach, that seems kind of a weird tactic to take, to do that. And because of EJ's resume, that does kind of seem to be the point here.
Yeah, that would basically be the point, that I don't necessarily blame Brian Applewhite for the lackluster productivity we had in the running backs room. I mean, he had his hands tied behind his back with a god-awful offensive line and a offensive coordinator who has the creativity of a black and white painting. So it's kind of one of those things that I just kind of look at and I go, I think we did Brian Applewhite a disservice this year and really made him look bad. Because I mean, he had talent. It just wasn't able to come together through any form of rhythm. So looking at EJ Barthel, I want to say like Bethard for whatever reason. I got freaking Iowa quarterback name stuck in my head. They live rent free, clearly. When I think about him, it's like he's got good potential. I just hope that this Marcus Satterfield guy can give him room to breathe. And Donnie, well, hopefully we
Give
talk
him
about
room.
him here
Back
soon,
room
but
to run. Yeah.
giving him offensive line that can make something happen. And I think you do pose a good question there, Derrick. Like what
I kind of
I
have an
didn't even
answer.
look into the offensive line. Like what was he really working with? So
It was
I don't
also
know.
Jim Mora's first year at UConn. So he brought EJ Barthel in with him when Jim Mora took the job this year. So my guess is they also have a new offensive line coach. I didn't look too deeply, but Mora came in this year, was his first year as head coach at UConn, and obviously Barthel's first time there as well. So a lot of things changed then going into that. So let's see here. I'm looking at 16 different windows.
I will say that EJ Barthel's got a really good looking beard. That's a definite 100%. I can get down with that beard. That's a good beard.
Yep.
It's got to be a great coach then.
I can't grow a beard, so I automatically give coach some swagger if he's got.
Hey, you got a killer stash game going on, Scott. Don't sell yourself short.
It just doesn't grow in anywhere else. So I could grow a goatee, but goatees are like apparently like not the thing to do at this point in time in the world.
The answer as to where Casey Thompson took everybody when he came from the offense.
That's a good spot.
Yeah.
That's a good spot.
Definitely.
It wasn't the food there.
Nope. That's an interesting question. Go Big Redcast is also asking, get your opinion, guys, with Pete's not coming now, which we wouldn't talk about anyway, but we might as well before we move on to offensive line. Would we like to see Satterfield coach the QBs instead of OC and tight ends, and then hire another O-line coach who also handles tight ends? What do you guys think?
I'll go first on that. So that's an interesting dynamic of a tight end and another offensive line coach. That isn't the move I would like. I'd kind of like to see Ed Foley, maybe him taking over tight end coach. He did that in the past. He did that in Temple, and maybe making a stab at bringing in another defensive coach. You know, there's Pete's probably was going to make a good chunk of coin. So there's some bigger names on the market from defense. You know, we can bring up the Robinson debacle, which we haven't been able to pull him the 15 times his name's been brought up from A&M, but I don't know. That's what I'd like to see, is to maybe make a stab at a bigger name assistant.
Well, I know Foley's got experience in offensive line as well. So tight ends, offensive, I think he had like 17 years of offensive line experience or something to that effect overall over his career. So he's experienced there as well.
That's why we call him Ed F. and Foley.
Ed F. and freaking
Uncle
Foley.
Ed.
Uncle Eddie. Hey, shitter's full. Dang, now I've got to throw the explicit tag in on myself. Sorry.
You're the first
Next
one.
slide. We've got the hot button issue in Husker Nation right now. And I've heard many takes, even amongst the media, who the media's always tended to be pretty friendly toward Husker head coaches, especially one that we will not name, who shall remain nameless. So, okay, Tyler, I know you've got something to say, so just let her rip, dude.
I don't hate it. And again, I think. Well, can you give me a look? Like,
Am I in an alternate universe?
No. Wait till Justin gets up.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He's the one that I think that Donnie fits very much the mold of coaches that Rhule has brought on staff. I mean, if you look at the guys he's brought in, he's brought a lot of former NFL guys that were that, and that kind of fits his mold. Last year was not a great year, but I don't think anyone expected it to be a great year. He was really dealt a shit hand. Did he do anything to really build on it? I don't know. I think it was important to keep a carryover coach. And while I could have probably named better names, I mean, I think we need to find a guy to do it. So of all the hires, he's kind of a middle of the road guy for me, honestly. And so I guess that's kind of my bar.
I'll say this.
Go ahead, Dustin.
So,
jeez.
To me, the guy's impressed two head coaches at Nebraska enough to get hired. So he's got to be doing something right. I do believe he was just handed a complete shit platter last year. You know, with Newely, his expected starting guard gets suspended for the year. Prohaska gets hurt 3 or 4 games into the season. You lose him for the year. It was just an impossible situation for the guy. Was the offensive line bad? Yes, it was. It was terrible. There's no doubt. There's no denying that. I don't know that any offensive line coach is going to come in here and fix that situation in 1 year. So I'm willing to give the guy a shot. I will say me and Tyler had some pretty good laughs. We've been telling Justin for 2 or 3 weeks before he was even a candidate that this was going to be our offensive line coach, just to screw with him. And he ends up actually being our offensive line coach. And while I would have went out and found, I don't know, about a dozen other guys I would have taken before him, I'm willing to give the guy a shot because I don't think you can judge him off of the 1 year he's had in Nebraska because I think it was an impossible situation for about any coach.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Is it my turn?
Anybody can go. Whoever wants to go next.
$7 million is what Matt Rhule was given for an assistant pool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody had in their mind what they thought the assistant coaches, what that was going to look like, right? Everybody had the visions of who that was going to be. Donovan Raiola was not in anybody's forecast of coming to see what was going to be on the staff in the following year. And after the initial set of hires, and they weren't any wow hires for assistant coaches at all, right? But there were 2 coaches that you really cannot miss on in the Big Ten, and that's offensive line and defensive coordinator. Those are 2 coaches you cannot miss. And with a $7 million pool, we went out and got a $300,000 guy that really did not show anything. You can talk about the hand that he was given. Okay, yeah, it was a shitty hand, but you know what? He probably shouldn't have been in the job anyway. There should have been more experience in this position anyway. He's getting another shot. We have to love it because he's going to be our guy.
I love it. It's just it is.
Well, we have to love it now. I mean,
Justin,
we have to be behind him, right?
Before Scott gets in here,
I can pretty much hate it. I can pretty much hate it.
But okay, I understand the concern. But my question is there really, from the rumors that have been out there about who he was interviewing, if it wasn't Raiola, it was going to be someone that had the exact same resume as Raiola. Like, we were not going after seasoned offensive line coaches. That's not.
Yeah, so that's a problem too, right?
Like, that wasn't who we were not looking at a Big Ten offense. We weren't looking at Bart Scott or whatever his name is from Illinois trying to steal like a Big Ten. That wasn't it. We were looking at NFL assistants.
Yeah, and John Garrison, he just left North Carolina State to go to work with Lane
Sean
Kiffin.
Callahan reported he didn't get an interview. He didn't get a call. So, I mean, it wasn't like we were going after these guys.
It's truly puzzling. And, you talked about the carryover. If you wanted to bring one coach from the 2021 staff, there are so many other guys that have shown their ability to coach and recruit. I mean, Barrett Rude, he's another young, energetic guy who's really coached those linebackers up hard and gotten those young guys to play hard, like Ernest Hausman, who's now gone. And, there's just so many other things. And we settled for Donovan Raiola. And what really pisses me off a little bit is everybody talks about, all the other people, Tyler, you're talking about, like Ed Foley helping on offensive line and all of these guys with offensive line experience. You have all these babysitters to babysit them when you have $7 million. You could get one other guy to do it because you know what? There's a lot of inexperienced guys. Yes, you're right. Go Big Red Cast says Osborne always said he thought having 2 offensive line coaches on staff. That's great. But what I'm getting at is like all the inexperienced coaches that we have on the staff, nobody's talking about babysitting them and providing them extra help to help out in the secondary or the linebackers, because we're going to be talking about those guys and they're even experienced, but they're saying it for Donovan Raiola. You only say that because, your argument is like, well, He needs the help. I mean, it's really silly. It's really silly. And maybe Donovan Raiola is going to be a great coach, but on the surface, with a $7 million budget,
can I ask a question? Since we've gone away from the 2 offensive line coach system, how great have our offensive lines actually been since Osborne retired? You could argue especially once Solich got canned, it just hasn't been the same. When we've had one guy in there running the offensive line, it just hasn't been the same. Granted, we were running the option. The offense was completely different, but I could see some definite benefit in having a main guy that's in the room that the kids look to for technique and whatnot like that, but also having another guy in there for cleaning up the things that the new guy is trying to figure out. But I get it, though, with the pool of money that Rhule had to work with. Quite frankly, my surprise in all of this is the fact that he was given $7 million. Number one. Why? Because he's Matt freaking Rhule. He doesn't go hire rock star coaches. Never has. He's hired his guys, and his guys are usually people nobody's ever heard of. He's as he said, a developmental coach. He runs a developmental program, and I don't think he just develops players. I think he takes a lot of pride in developing coaches too. So that's the way I look at it. He's hoping to develop Donovan, and my feeling is the way Rhule is, he's the East Coast guy. You don't figure your stuff out in 1 year, we've got another guy we can probably plug in next year because you're out the door. So we'll see.
So the underdeveloped coaches that he's brought on. Okay, so you get it at Temple, right? They probably don't have a huge salary pool at all. So he's going to make do with what he does at the group of 5 level, because I'm sure that's what a lot of those programs
he won
do.
10 games 2 years in a row. I think he knows what he's doing, and he knows what he's looking for in a coach.
But even at Baylor coming off of what they had come off of, I can't imagine that the investment in football and the athletic department was going to be too high. So, I don't know what that pool was, but he made do with what he did. We're getting 3 high school coaches in there, but a lot of that was could have been political, because you have to kind of change the view of that program to get other coaches to send their kids to Baylor after coming off of, all that bullshit there. But
you make that argument, Justin, but I guarantee you Baylor fans were sitting back going, we're giving this guy a $3 million pool and he's going after high school coaches? Are you serious?
Maybe, but it's not $7 million,
But it's the same argument. I mean, it's
the argument here that I'm trying to make is simple, and that's the fact that Matt Rhule is not going to go hire the latest rock star in college football just because he's got $7 million to do. What if he doesn't get along with the guy? What if it doesn't work with his philosophy? His philosophy is completely different from most people. He wants to develop first.
That's a mistake, and that's a mistake all of us Nebraska fans have made.
Ranked yet, and then suddenly they get ranked as soon as Matt Rhule gets on them. So,
that's the mistake all of us Nebraska fans have made over the last 3 or 4 hires. Every time we get these new hires in, we're going, they're going to get this really great coaching staff. And I don't remember Bo Pelini. I don't remember the hires he made. I don't remember what he did that made us all feel warm and fuzzy, but. Mike Riley came in and he brought all of his buddies with him, with the exception of a few guys. And then Scott Frost came in and he brought all of his buddies. There was no exceptions. And now you got Matt Rhule and he's doing the same thing. Like, this is what coaches do. They bring in guys that they know
and they trust and that know what they want to do.
But he doesn't know Donovan Raiola.
Well, and I think the difference too is I think I would have been fine if he would have brought his buddies from Baylor. That would have been fine for me, but that's not the staff that he brought in. Most of this staff didn't coach with him at Baylor, and Raiola is an example. And back to the 2 offensive line coach, I'm not. It obviously worked for Tom, and that was a great idea. I just think with all the different things right now, like one of our offensive line coaches was special teams too. They helped out with that. So I guess you could throw Ed Foley there, but I think Ed Foley has his hands full. I think maybe he could take over tight end coach. I don't know. From someone who played a much, much, much lower offensive line, I can't imagine having 2 voices in that room.
I don't know.
It seems tough for me.
When one of them's Ed Foley's voice, you're ready to run through a wall.
Yeah. Yeah, probably a brick one too. Not know that you got hurt. Oh my goodness. Well, have we? Well, no, we haven't, because Scott, you really haven't talked about Raiola yet. I know you're pissed about it. You don't like it at all. So why don't you go ahead? I mean, you're probably not going to say anything much different than the rest of them have, but you need to be heard. So be heard, my son.
Yeah, I mean, if there would have been anybody that would have been carried over from the previous staff, Donovan Raiola definitely wouldn't have been on my bingo card. That's for sure. Yeah, it's kind of a surprise. Yeah, maybe Matt Rhule does have a history of developing coaches and giving them a lot of room for development, I guess, to be a little bit redundant. But this just doesn't make any sense to me. I understand the context. You know, I can be a glass half full guy and say, well, you know, he was dealt a shit hand. We've said that. He, you know, he's a new guy. He's this, he's that, he's all these things. But what it ultimately comes down to is like, dude, it's the Big Ten. You've got to have a good offensive line. You've got to figure out your trenches. And maybe for whatever reason, Matt Rhule saw something in this guy that he just absolutely fell in love with, which I assume is what happened, because I don't see any other reason why he would have retained him aside from 12 dudes all walking out of his door going, I don't want anything to do with this program because it's such a dumpster fire right now. And then he just settled with Donovan Raiola.
You have to laugh a little bit at the irony of this, though, right? Like, we've all said this. Like, Donovan Raiola is the absolute last guy that's going to get hired, and he is the only one that gets retained.
Yeah, it's an absolute. It's
well,
you can't
laugh at that irony. If you can't have a sense of humor about that, I don't know what to tell you.
I do. I actually kind of laughed when I first saw the headline. I was like, "What? Okay,
I have
all
to
right,
admit,
we'll see."
I giggled too. I was like, "Oh wow, this absolutely figures." And then the other thought that occurred to me was, this is like such a total Matt Rhule thing to do.
This is the Nebraska way.
It's what he does, and we'll see how it works out. I will say,
let's see how big of a wall we can build up before we try to tear it down.
Yeah, it was. I did just a little bit. Looked at some stats between the offensive line in 2021 and the offensive line in 2022. There was zero improvement. In fact, the line got worse when it came to passing and rushing offense. End of story. You can't sugarcoat that. But one of the things,
offensive play calling had something to do with that.
Offensive play calling, yeah, we could say the X's and O's certainly had something to do with it, no doubt about it.
Because Whipple's running attack was garbage,
and running an offense that the backup quarterbacks had almost no snaps in practice, and then when the main guy goes down, you basically have no offense. Didn't help either. But what did change under Donovan Raiola is the fact that there was, and one of the things Rhule has mentioned is he wants to run a disciplined physical football program. And you can say that the discipline definitely improved on the offensive line, because in 2021 they had 24 offensive line penalties throughout the season, average of 2 a game. That dropped to 14, a 41.7% improvement in 2022. So the offensive line wasn't hurting this team with stupid penalties at the wrong moments. In fact, in 2022, there were 5 games without an offensive line penalty. So, but then you look at
market improvement.
Teams, definitely an improvement. But when we played the best teams like Oklahoma, Michigan, and teams like that, those were the games where we had multiple penalties on the offensive line, because they had multiple creatures on the other side of the line that tended to make our offensive line look dumb. So there's trade-offs all the way along. But what you can say is that 10 less penalties over the course of a season is going to make a difference in your line not hurting your team in the win-loss column for certain.
But they found a way, don't you?
They found a way. Hey, we won one more game. I'm gonna hold on to that. So let's move on to the defense, because why not? We've all but buried the offense now, because we still don't know who the wide receiver coach, who the quarterbacks coach, and all that good stuff is going to be. Hopefully, we'll know soon. Anyway, defense coordinator, as we talked about before we kind of got on the stream, this is the hire you talked about, Justin, being the one of the two that you can't miss on in the Big Ten. Now, there was a lot of knee-jerk reaction, including by myself, seeing the 3-3-5 defense going, oh my goodness, how's that going to work when we're playing Iowa and Wisconsin and Minnesota in November and late October? And to be honest with you, I can't answer that question. I can't spin this with anything positive as far as what the run game on defense is going to look like. But it's not a bad hire. I think we've all kind of agreed before we got on the stream that this is kind of this is the guy we really need, or at least this is a good guy that we got, and one of the better hires that just based on looking at what he's done. Do you guys have any thoughts that you want to just throw out there, starting with you, Scott, on Tony White?
Yeah, I just think there's one of the trends that I have noticed with every single hire is the fact that they do not have Big Ten experience, and the offensive coordinator, Marcus Satterfield, has a little bit in the SEC, but I mean, across the board, you just don't see a lot of Big Ten experience, and this is another one of those instances. And that's my pessimistic take. I just wish that from the defensive standpoint, the defensive coordinator standpoint, the offensive line standpoint, which, I mean, you can argue Donovan Raiola has 12 games of experience now in the Big Ten, but regardless, this is one of those places where I would have expected to see, I mean, at least give me an SEC guy, or, please get me somebody with some Big Ten experience. And he just doesn't have that, which, it is what it is. But what he did at Syracuse was pretty formidable. I mean, yeah, he led back-to-back top 30 defenses from 21 and 2022. And yeah, ranked 19th nationally when it came to yards per game. And I mean, just looking at just the stats, I mean, he did some good things for the Orange, which, I mean, that's Syracuse, dude. Like they're not a perennially good team. So the fact that he was able to scrounge up a pretty nasty defense and a consistently nasty defense, I mean, I'll take it for what it's worth. At face value, pretty damn good hire. But like I said, I could be the pessimist. I can be the glass half empty guy and look at it and go, yeah, but is that going to translate to the Big Ten? Is he going to bring that mentality here where people just know that the grind is a little bit different? I will say, hey, looking at it, he was able to go from Arizona State to Syracuse, which is a completely different weather system. So if he was able to create a really good, salty and disciplined defense in, a snowy and salty state, that could translate well here. So I can look at it both ways. I'd say that he's probably one of the guys that, I think we can all agree when we first saw the name pop up on our phones or wherever we found out about the news, you were like, who, what, huh? And then you look at it and you're like, okay, what, huh? And then as you kind of dig in, as I kind of dug into it a little bit more, I was like, okay, I'm not my butthole isn't as puckered. So it's okay. It's an okay hire.
There's the visual I was waiting for. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes, my
Go ahead.
butthole is wide open.
Shoot. Am I muted? No, I'm not. Hey,
Nope.
There you go. Whoever wants to go next, go ahead. I'm just trying to make sure.
I'll just say I love the hire. I absolutely love this hire. This is a solid pickup. I'm not sure about this 3-3-5, but it's fine. It's going to be perfectly fine. It's so it'll work. The thing that I like about this is, and this is like an underrated thing, is what do the fans of those teams? Because just take a step back, all these hires that Matt Rhule has really made, outside of maybe one or two guys, Raiola and Satterfield, I've never heard of any of these other guys. So it's kind of good to get a fan perspective from the other teams. So the fan perspective from what I've seen about Tony White from Syracuse fans is they absolutely love the guy. And they thought that he probably should have been the head coach. So when I see things like that, I was like, wow, we really got a good one right here. if they think that highly of him, and he was a Broyles Award nominee. I mean, Syracuse, he coached that defense up pretty damn well for the level of talent that they were probably getting. I just think it's going to work at Nebraska. I think he's going to. He's by far the best hire that we have. So I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see what he does here.
I'll add this. Scott, I know you talked about not having Big Ten experience. And while I would like to see some Big Ten experience, I also think there's a little bit of overratedness to it, as in the fact that, dude, at one point, Jim Leonhard had no Big Ten experience. Became one of the best defensive coordinators in the Big Ten. Ryan Walters, when he came to Illinois, had no Big Ten experience. Who's Ohio State's guy that came from Oklahoma State?
I don't remember.
Knowles.
Jim Knowles.
Jim Knowles. He had essentially no Big Ten experience. Joe Rossi at Minnesota, who's had a great defense this year, had basically no Big Ten experience. So to sit there and say that he can't be a good coach if you don't have Big Ten experience, but other teams do it all the time. There's no reason Nebraska can't do it too. I think he's a great hire. If he was hiring a rock star all-star team, this guy would probably be on the lower end normally. But after seeing everybody else he's hired, this is the rock star hire.
It's all about relative information, right?
Yeah.
Relative to the dumpster fire, it's a pretty good real estate.
You look at his defense. So he runs a very. I know it's 3-3-5, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert in X's and O's, but I'll tell you this: it's an aggressive offense or aggressive defense. They try to get a lot of takeaways. They try to get some sacks. And it's going to be an exciting defense to watch, I believe.
Yeah, and Derrick, not to go on this thing, but like I think there is a difference though with the guys that you named versus Tony White when it comes to Big Ten experience. One, Jim Leonhard, yeah, I guess technically at some point in time he didn't have Big Ten experience, but he was basically born with Big Ten experience. I mean, with the college in the Big Ten, I think his first coaching job was in the Big Ten.
Well, then Matt Rhule was born in a Big Ten experience.
But
you can't have it both ways, Tyler.
When your first coaching job's in the Big Ten, like Jim Leonhard, everything he's done has been Wisconsin-based. And while Ryan Walters, you're right, wasn't in Illinois, he wasn't Big Ten. He came from the SEC, which is a much different conference than the ACC. So it wasn't like that. And he went to Brett Bielema, who was, again, very much in the know of how the conference needs to look. I think the thing is, Matt Rhule, I think in this staff could have benefited from getting a couple guys that had their trenches and they understood a little bit of the Big Ten week in, week out. We heard Mickey Joseph kind of talk about that when, when he was being interviewed when he was interim. It's like, man, the Big Ten is just a different league. And I think he would have benefited from guys that know what it takes to win. And if Matt Rhule had coached here for 8 years, I'd be less concerned about him bringing guys from different conferences, but he hasn't. So that's my only concern on the Big Ten thing. It'd be nice to,
I just look at it like, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. And you are right, Derrick. There are definitely a bunch of exceptions to the rule of like, what kind of experience are you bringing to a system of football? And Big Ten has its own identity with their systems. And there are some exceptions, like some dudes just have the it factor and they just show up to a place and they've got the right philosophy. They've got the right mentality. They've got the ability to coach and build players up and develop them. It's just like, if I don't know that they're the exception to that rule, then my immediate rule of thumb is to just assume that they are a part of the rule, not the exception. And so looking at this guy, it's like, well, I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to put him into the box of, well, he's either going to be the part of the rule, and that is going to be not be able to translate his philosophy to the Big Ten, or he's going to change my expectation and he's going to become an exception. So that's just the way I look at it. That's my, I guess, framework.
I guess the way I look at it is when you look at what a dumpster fire Syracuse's defense was, and you look statistically how bad that defense was for the better part of 10 years before he got there. And in his first year as defensive coordinator, he struggled a little bit. But that last 2 years, he had it as a top 30 defense each year.
Yep.
And I mean, that's a big improvement.
It is. And I really hope, I do really hope that translates to the Big Ten. And what I do expect to see is probably an average defense. If there's anything that I expect going into 2023, I'd say that we're not going to be overwhelmed with the defense. We're going to be like, meh. But what I do hope is that we get some development and he is able to scheme up some mad IQ points and make some shit work for us. So that's what I hope. I mean, if he is able to do that at Syracuse, I mean, sky's the limit, man. Like, come on, like EJ Barthel. I about did the Bethard thing again. If he was able to do that at UConn, then all right, sky's the limit, dude. Same thing with this guy. I mean, I'm hopeful. This is the guy that I would say that I'm the most optimistic about, but I'm still just like hesitantly, pessimistic.
Cautiously optimistic. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Just, I know one of the concerns I'd heard or at least seen put out there was that his defense wasn't good at the run, and we kind of talked about that before we got on the stream, that especially last year, 68th in the country against the run, but in 2021 his defense was 26th in the country against the run. So he can stop the run. Maybe there was some new players, younger players on that defense that couldn't quite grasp the concepts yet, and that's why the run defense wasn't quite as good. But anyway, you guys are nailing it. I don't have to say much because you covered everything. That's awesome. I can just sit here and run a stream. Life's good.
And listen, we're all sitting here talking about this run heavy Big Ten, but you got Illinois still probably going to be run heavy. Minnesota probably. Wisconsin, I'm not so sure they're going to be run heavy as much as they have been. They just went and hired Phil Longo for a offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. He's not a run heavy guy. Like, I don't know what Wisconsin's trying to do at this point, but it's not Wisconsin. It's not what they're trying to do.
They could have just taken Mark Whipple.
Phil Longo's been known to run the ball a little bit better than Mark Whipple, but
I would certainly hope so. Especially at Wisconsin, those people start losing their cheese. He doesn't figure out.
He is a little more of a pass-heavy guy. I mean, he's
right. So, let's see here. Next up, we have got Mr. Terrence Knighton.
Go to Tyler. Go to Tyler.
Go to Tyler. Go for it, Tyler. Let her rip, Tater Chip.
I mean, this is going to be a guy that is definitely, again, fits the mold of what a lot of these assistant coaches were. They have the NFL experience, which to me has been very evident, was something very important to Matt Rhule in the coaching search. We talked about this with EJ Barthel a little bit. I think I've been impressed what he's done on the recruiting trail. It seems like he's already come out there and really hit the ground running a little bit, getting this going. Is there a coach on the staff that is more unknown than Terrence? Probably not. But that's not always a bad thing, right? I mean, people are crushing Donnie because he has a little bit of experience. He's definitely a white canvas. Definitely falls in the vibrant and energetic coaches that Matt Rhule has been bringing in. So, and I know I've been asked this. I have a thesaurus open for the synonyms of the same description of words that I'm just pulling out of my ass every time I'm talking about these guys. Oh, wait, maybe I do. Right. But no, I mean, what do you want to know about? I mean, like, there's just not a lot of evidence in his history.
Agreed.
Next.
This is a very awkward silence there. Oh my god. Yeah.
No,
something inexperience, something yells a lot, something.
And there's these big
NFL
stories on
coach.
recruiting. I mean,
oops, dang it.
There's some players that seem to like him. We'll see if he actually lands some commits, but I don't know.
It's a puzzling hire. It's a
It
puzzling
is.
hire.
It's one of those areas. It's the trenches. Like, what are we doing?
Mhm.
We've got
to
two
me,
guys.
I don't
You
think
could-
Justin put enough emphasis on this. I think this is another hire you could not miss on. Like,
Yeah. No,
I
copied
agree.
and pasted.
Your
He
two
copied
lines.
and pasted the Donovan Raiola
This
hire.
was the first hire
your
that
two
Rhule
line
made,
coaches are the
and
two that you
why?
cannot miss on.
Why did we go here? Knighton was the first one that I went. I get the NFL experience. I get the whole
He legit has the exact same resume that Donovan Raiola had last year.
exactly same resume.
No, that's not fair. Rail's experience was better. He was at least a GA at Notre Dame. Like, I mean, he had 3
At
years
least Terrence Knighton was an actual D line coach at an FCS school.
What was Aurora? I don't remember.
Wagner.
Raiola, he
No,
was like
Aurora,
a Division 3.
Okay, but okay, I'm not going to nitpick. What I will say,
Knighton wasn't. He was at Wagner.
what I'll say about Terrence though, in another plus category for him. I mean, this is a guy that literally just came off the staff with Matt Rhule. Like, and you guys point out this was the first public hire that was made. Again, I don't know if it actually was, but the first. So this is a guy that you got to believe Matt Rhule is like, man, when I get my next job, I need pork chop. Is it pork chop? Pork something?
It's pot roast and
Pot
mutton
roast.
chop.
Pot roast.
Mutton chop.
Pork
Mutton
chop
chop.
was Corey Ross, wasn't it?
Pork chop was
Mhm.
Corey Ross. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you got pot roast.
And I mean, I've seen video of him talking to his defensive line in the NFL. I mean, he was coaching them up. I mean, there was nothing to slam on the guy.
He gets me hard.
It's just the lack of experience.
I'm just saying, with a nickname like
Totally.
pot roast, like I mean that's a
I mean,
that's a
you
future
can
Hall
call
of
chicken
Famer.
pot pie for all I care.
That's a great nickname. Can we,
I
can we
like,
do that for
sweet
can we do that for
potato pie.
Donnie? Is Donnie
Sweet
our
potato
little
pie.
chicken pot pie?
No.
Ugh.
No. God damn.
Well,
No.
all right.
mutton chop.
Before this completely descends into what we ate tonight, move on to the defensive backs coach and Evan Cooper. What again? Temple is that connective tie to Rhule for sure. Played DB from 2006 2009. I believe Rhule was there as some sort of an assistant at that point. GA at Temple in 2013, Director of External Operations 2014, Director of Player Personnel 2015 2016. So he was there the entire Rhule tenure, as well as with him at Baylor for most of the time he was at Baylor. So what are we thinking? I know recruiting coordinator, that's a big one. You see a lot of recruiting bona fides with all of these guys, and few of them have been considered recruiting coordinators at past stops. So it seems, doggone it, there I go again. It seems Rhule is putting an emphasis on guys that have a lot of experience out there recruiting and heading up recruiting departments. So I'll start with you, Derrick. What do you think of Evan Cooper?
Okay, here's another one. When we hired him, I'm like, okay, I can deal with it. I'm not overly happy with it, but I can deal with it. But the more I get to know him, the more I'm starting to read about him, the more I'm seeing about him. I like the guy. I think he's going to be a good recruiter. He's done summer. I mean, he's not completely inexperienced. He coached cornerbacks at Baylor. He's got some experience. He's not a ton, but I think his recruiting is going to come around. I think he put 2 or 3 top 35 classes at Baylor together. I like the guy. It took me a little bit to come around to him, but I like him.
I love the hire. I think it's a solid hire from what he's did at Baylor, and he wasn't an assistant secondary coach at Carolina. He was the DB coach at Carolina. Solid hire. I love what he's doing on the recruiting trail right now. He's everywhere. He's talking to everybody. I think he's doing his thing, and he's one of the better coaches that Matt Rhule has hired. And I think we're in great hands with him doing his thing.
Yeah, I'll jump. I'm sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he is definitely a coach. Yeah. It's kind of you have to look pretty hard to find a lot of information about him. It's scattered everywhere.
It's not like some of the guys where they don't even have a wiki page, though, right?
Well, I mean, I think Evan is one of those. I can't find.
Yeah, he doesn't have a wiki page.
Nope.
He doesn't.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. There's. It took me a little bit to find information about him. I think I were we going to, after we go through all of the coaches, rank them? Was that our idea? Like, not rank them, but best sleeper.
We're doing some superlatives. Yep, we're
underwhelming.
doing superlatives at the end.
Yeah,
At
we're
the end.
doing,
Very well. Then I will save that.
He excited about the one that we're curious to see what happens, and the one that we're not.
Yes, he falls into one of those categories. I'll let you guys guess which one it is, but yeah, I think he has really good potential to be a pretty dang solid secondary coach.
I just want to go back to something that Tyler was talking about earlier with maybe bringing Ed Foley to coach the tight ends and bringing in another defensive assistant. Maybe defensive backs is a place where you start. Now that you're running a 3-3-5 and you're going to have 5 defensive backs back there, maybe having a cornerbacks and a safeties coach ain't such a bad idea.
Yeah.
Sure. I got you. Well, next up.
Oh, and he's got a good looking beard too. There we go.
Dang, Skippy. Then you got a linebackers coach who's not yet officially listed or announced at this point, but this is the name everybody's talking about, so I threw him in there. Played at Temple. Imagine that. Coached at Baylor. Wow, that's a shock. And all that good stuff. So, Rob Dvorak, I think he was, if I remember right, all conference or something like that, and then had a career-ending injury. So, lettered 2 years, all that good stuff. So he knows kind of how the rule blueprint looks. So and of course, not much of a wiki. I didn't see much of a Wikipedia thing, at least not on his coaching. So, same pedigree. Seems to have.
You didn't find anything because he hasn't really done any coaching.
So.
You didn't find anything because he really hasn't done any coaching.
No,
this might be the most
summarized
puzzling hire out of all of them.
It could be summarized in 3 statements that On 3 put into the coaching hire tracker, which is Carolina defensive assistant, played for Rhule at Temple, not officially announced yet by Nebraska.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
pretty much
perfect summary.
I think he's 32 years old. I mean,
I think I can speak for probably most of us when I say we're hoping it doesn't officially get announced.
We'll see. I mean,
I don't know. I don't understand why you would take this guy over Barrett Rude.
Because this guy is dynamic. He is spirited, animated. He has all the things you want in an up and coming coach. Like,
he could be developed as a motherfucker.
Yeah, development.
I just don't get it. I mean,
I'm with you, Justin. I do not understand.
I really hope that next year we just blow the freaking wheels off of the Big Ten and we can just sit there with our hands on our cocks and be like, well, I'm glad that we were just a bunch of dicks.
Weren't we wrong?
And I hope I am wrong.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong so badly.
And hey, he can have a babysitter because White's coached linebackers quite a bit too. So.
And he's like my age, and I still need.
Let me put it this way: if you play the game of taking the last staff, the 2021 Husker staff, and the 2022 staff, and the future 2023 staff, and you put them side by side, and you look at those parallels, it's like, play better, same, or worse at that game. There's no bigger drop off from a coach going from Barrett Rude to this guy. There's no.
You are wrong. We are about to get to the biggest gap, but no, that is Bill Bush to Ed Foley is like Tom Osborne to Scott Frost.
And that is bullshit, Tyler, and you know that. But there is no bigger drop off going.
I hope you bite your tongue. You speak devil of Ed F and Foley.
Yeah.
All right, since we're there.
Wait. Am I wrong though? I mean,
no, you're wrong. This is the biggest gap.
But the rest of you guys are rational, right? So
no, I'm full of shit.
No, let's talk about Mario Verduzco. I'm sorry, Ed Foley. I'm gonna get that wrong a couple times because that's exactly what we just hired as MV 2.0. The 27-year-old vet that had never actually coached any big football is Mario Verduzco 2.0. except he was actually at Rutgers, which Ed Foley can't speak to. So, I mean, so Ed Foley is a lot of experience. So I have to get a different page up for Ed Foley because he doesn't fit the mold of the rest of the staff of NFL assistants that are young, vibrant. Ed Foley is experienced.
He's the old fart.
He is kooky.
Yep.
And yeah, he's gonna be our special teams coach. We had Bill Bush. Now we have Ed Foley.
And he led the league, or it was the top. What Justin? You're all of us to Justin. Justin, tell him some stats.
So, I mean, if you want to talk about block kicks, he was the special teams coach from 2013 to 2018. He was in the top 10 in blocked kicks 4 out of those 6 years. Freaking huge, right? Punt returns and kick returns. I mean, I'm doing the math in my head here. 5, 6, 7, 8 punt return TDs over that time. And another 3 kick returns for TDs.
Something we haven't seen in Nebraska in years.
Yeah.
Nope.
Punt coverage was solid for most of the years. Kickoff coverage. I mean, he was just a solid dude. Sean Callahan, if you like group up all of the special teams categories and put it up there, it's like 4 of the 5 years he was top 25. 4 of the last 5 years he was top 25 in all of special teams. He coached in 2018. He had coached the AAC Special Teams Player of the Year he's a punt returner. I forget his name, Isaiah something. But and then in 2016 he had an all-conference kicker. I mean, he's done some really good things. And as bad as Nebraska's special teams have been over the last however long, this year they were actually good. But there's no drop off. There's no drop off from what Bill Bush had done up until Tyler. So for the people just listening, Tyler is absolutely hateful for Uncle Ed for whatever reason.
I don't hate Uncle Ed.
He's waving his arm.
I think his SNL skit is hilarious when he is telling people to live in the van down by the river. I think it's I think he's hilarious. He's a cartoon character. I find it like
who cares if he can coach football and he does it well. It looks like he can scheme one hell of a special teams attacking
so well that he's had exactly the same amount of Power 5 jobs as all of us.
Does that matter? Why does that matter?
When you've been a coach for 25 years and no one has given you a shot to be a special teams coordinator in a Power 5, yeah.
How do you know nobody's giving him a chance? How do you know he didn't just want to stay at Temple? Maybe
because he left Temple and he left Temple to go be an assistant special teams coach in Carolina.
He did eventually, but he stayed at Temple under 2 or 3 coaches.
I think it was 2. But, I mean,
at least 2.
He's been coaching for 32 years. He was
there for all of Matt Rhule's time, and he was there for all of Jeff Collins' time.
That was 10 years. He was at Temple for 10 years, and he's coached for 32 years. There's 22 years he could have went and got some experience.
There's a lot of guys that you can knock, Tyler. This is not one of those guys.
No, he is right in the middle of the pack. You're right.
You want to judge a book by his cover and say, "Oh, I can laugh
I
can laugh at his fat face and his big glasses. He's an old fucker, so I can sit here and laugh at him."
Yeah,
so he
that's
can't be a good coach. That's all you got. That is all you have. He's a cartoon character. He is a cartoon character.
I do not know what I missed. I do not know what I missed, but
I need the popcorn gift.
I had my headphones off and was like approximately 20 feet away from my computer, and I could hear you guys rambling from across the room on my headphones.
I just think that we had Bill Bush. Like, I guess that's my thing. If we didn't have Bill, if we still had the special teams coach that we had 2 or 3 years ago, that would be different. But we had a guy.
And look, I would take Bill Bush back too. Like I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying this is a huge step forward from Bill Bush. I'm not saying that. You're saying that's a huge drop off.
It's Tom
when you talk about drop off, I'm talking Mike Dawson to Knighton, Phil Knighton, whatever the hell his name is.
Terrence Knighton. Phil Knighton.
Pot roast. Just call him pot roast.
Pot roast. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a guy
The
that
Nike
had
guy.
NFL experience and Power 5 experience and multiple years experience to a guy that coached for friggin' Wagner. And you want to talk about this is the biggest drop off?
Yeah.
Go jump off a bridge with no water at the bottom.
He hasn't actually been a special teams coordinator since 2018.
Hey, we got a sub out of the deal.
Shit.
I am rooting for Uncle Ed. I hope he does well. I think that there's something telling when you haven't been an actually full-time coach since 2018. Like,
He's been following Matt Rhule around.
yeah, and Matt Rhule isn't giving him a full-time position coaching job.
Maybe he doesn't want one. Maybe he just wants to be.
And now he does?
Maybe
could
he
he
just
not
wants to
want one
be-
Maybe he's doing it as a favor to Matt Rhule. You don't know.
I don't know. I love this hire. I
think it's a great hire. I do.
he's in the top 3 for me.
He's definitely a hire. That is for sure.
Definitely a
Jesus, Scott, you're. I tell you what, Scott, you are like more pessimistic than what I was underneath the Scott Frost regime, right?
That's what this year did to me, man. I am a broken soul.
I am.
Everything
shocked.
hurts. My cock has never been so soft before.
You can tell we played Cards Against Humanity last night for sure. Oh my goodness.
Well, I have that effect on men.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and do it, guys. Let's go ahead and just run down our list of the least impressive, most impressive, and then the hire that we're looking for to see where it goes. I'll start, and I'll just give you all 3 of mine. My least impressive hire is, I think, what most of us are probably going to say, which is Terrence Knighton. 0 Power 5 experience, other than his years in the NFL, and he knows what it takes to get to the NFL and perform at that level. I don't know what he brings to the table. That's bottom line. My most impressive hire for me is definitely Tony White. And then the guy that I am most looking forward to seeing where he goes is EJ Barthel. So there you go. Those are my 3. We'll start with you, Derrick. Who's your least?
All right. I'll just play a little different from you, and I'll say my least favorite's got to be, if it becomes official, Dvorak.
Okay.
Like, 0 experience. I mean, just nothing. Knighton's right there too, but just to be different, to me they're 1A, 1B. As far as most impressive, it's got to be Tony White. Like I think it's a great hire. I really do. And I'll say Ed effing Foley, baby. I love this guy. I love to see what he's going to do. And he's going to turn this offensive line around, helping old Donnie Raiola out. and then Tyler's going to have nothing but praise to say about this guy.
I might as well just follow Derrick's footsteps there, because I completely agree with him in everything. Best hire, Tony White. It's not even a discussion for me. Worst hire. Not worst hire. Least exciting hire is Rob Dvorak, easily. And sleeper hire, I love Ed Foley. I'm on the Ed Foley bandwagon. I love that dude. He's great. I love the experience.
All righty. Go ahead, Tyler.
So tune into the Husker Podcast all season for the Ed Foley show. I think that and
follow them at Husker Podcast on Twitter and Facebook, and subscribe at Husker Podcast on your favorite podcast. Or the Ed Foley show.
Yeah, the official podcast for Ed Foley takes.
Ken, if you look at my name on the screen right there,
yeah,
I typed it in wrong. My Twitter handle. I typed it in wrong.
Well, I'm doing a little cussing, so actually Scott should pick Scott. So anyway,
I didn't put my Twitter handle, but my coaches, I guess Rob would definitely be near the bottom of the least excited, but I didn't include him since he hasn't been official. And I'm gonna go EJ Barthel is actually my least. A little bit different there. A big part of that has to go into the drop off. I talked about the drop off of Ed Foley to Bill Bush. I think Applewhite to Barthel is a pretty big drop off also. So I maybe a little bit better on a couple of those coaches, but he's down there for me. The best hire, the home run, the closest thing to a home run hire is Tony White. I mean, nothing more to add there. And to me, the guy that's the most likely to be a surprise, I don't remember the actual title of this superlative, sleeper, Donnie Raiola. Give him a chance. Like, he has the most Big Ten experience. He's fourth on staff in Power 5 experience. Like, he's still young. I mean, give Donnie
he's 40.
a chance.
He'll be 40 this year. Young.
Hey, you know what? You know what happens? Then you're a man. Then you don't mess it when you turn 40. You're a man. Yeah, he's like the second, third oldest coach.
I would put Evan Cooper in there before Raiola.
I don't think Evan Cooper is a sleeper. I think Evan Cooper is legit number 2 hire on staff. I think he is. If we did not hire Tony White and we were recording, Evan Cooper was going to be my favorite hire. So I don't. Yeah, I do think Evan Cooper is a better hire than Donovan Raiola. I just don't even think
he's not a sleeper.
He's a really.
I still think it was a sleeper. I guess.
That's the difference for me. I think Donnie's like towards the bottom, but I think he has a little bit more upside. Like, if I'm ranking the coaches, Donovan Raiola is not one of my top 4, but I think he has the potential to get there. That's why I listed him as a sleeper.
Scott,
all right.
have you done yet?
So in the world of unknowns, I would say that, yeah, you could make an argument for Terrence Knighton and especially Rob Dvorak as the least exciting hires. But since they are in the land of the unknown, I mean, it's just by default very not exciting. But I've got Donovan Raiola as my known least exciting hire. I've just got him because we know what we kind of have an idea of what's coming. And I honestly, maybe I'm just playing a game of like, I mean, the first time I've ever predicted us to lose against Iowa, we finally win. And so I'm just really hoping that by me picking the least exciting, our offensive line just blows the wheels off of the Big Ten. But I've got him as my least exciting hire. And then for my most exciting hire, yep, I think it's pretty much unanimous that Tony White would definitely take that cake. And then, yeah, for my sleeper, I do got Evan Cooper. I've got him as the sleeper just in the sense that, I don't know, I just got this feeling. I've got this feeling in my soul that he's going to put together a really solid secondary for us next year. That's it.
What I will say about Donovan Raiola as like the least exciting, I mean, he's the biggest dick punch hire out of everybody, right? Especially the way that it all came about. When, because I'm sitting there on whatever night it was, and we saw John Garrison was going to be named the O-line coach at from Football Scoop, right? So I saw the tweet, sent it out to the cousins, and I'm like, yes, finally something to be excited about. And it was, 5 minutes later, then Sean Callahan's like, no, that's false. It's Donnie Raiola. I tell you what, that ruined my night. I was watching something on Netflix and I had to turn it off. And I went to bed and I laid there and I could not even fucking sleep because I was so disturbed by that.
Well, there's the first F-bomb. So again, I think one thing just to specify, and I think we would all sign off on this message. We all know Matt Rhule knows way more about coaching than any of us. So
it makes you wonder with these hires, doesn't it? Makes you wonder.
A little bit, but I am old enough to remember about 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago when we first heard Ed Foley and Terrence Knighton, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's bringing these guys as analysts. These aren't actually going to be our position coaches."
Right.
And and you heard all that stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like,
which we all sat here and laughed at too, because what coach comes in and hires their analyst first?
Yeah, the first thing they're going to do is bring analysts. And I had a different thread. I was like, it was around Terrence. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I think Terrence is going to be our defensive line coach. And he's like, no, he's an analyst. And again, Ed Foley was in the same bucket. And nope, this is it. So
well, then there was the narrative that, well, Matt Rhule likes to have 2 defensive line coaches. So
Well, now we're
It
three.
doesn't appear that's going to happen.
Well, now we're a 3-3-5. It would be really hard to justify two defensive line coaches on a
Terrence,
3-3-5.
you coach one guy.
Oh man. Well, that was fun. That was a nice exercise, and I'm not sure what it was, but it was fun. So let's move on and get to the main event of the evening. Just kidding. It's the over-under game, and the results show of the over-under game, and the winner of the over-under game will have their choice of one of these two highly sophisticated Generation Red T-shirts.
I'll be a size large.
And I hope you're an double XL, because that's all I've got left.
I hope Derrick wins.
You are getting a Generation Red short summer dress.
Yes. Well, they'll shrink to about a large because they're 100% cotton. Trust me. I'm already moved into the double X's that I had extra because the XLs are like showing off my belly button now. So that's joyous.
No, that's a scary thought.
Yeah,
pierced. He's got a little Husker medallion on his belly button.
I got that little red, belly button piercing, little red diamond.
You're talking about your belly button. It's not where I thought this episode would go.
I know,
Ken.
isn't it though? I mean, it doesn't matter where we go. It's always wrong.
Between that and
here we go. 2022 over-under game. We started out with the passing offense. We'll go through the offense and then the defense, and then there was a couple of bonus questions. And I'll tell you guys right out of the gate, this thing was a lot closer than last year. And it took the final bonus question to actually determine a winner. So that's pretty cool. I had picked 273 yards per game for passing. I don't remember what the year before was. But I thought with Whipple coming in and throwing the ball all over the yard, we'd do well. And we did 220.8, which Tyler then was the winner after guessing 250 yards. So, you know the rule. This isn't the Price is Right. It's not up to or whoever gets the closest without going over. It's whoever's closest, whether they're over or under. So Tyler was the closest because we were all over. So he was only off by 29.2 yards a game, which would be what? 4 Casey Thompson passes, maybe.
Thank goodness for this that Chuba Purdy and Logan Smothers got a chance to start some games. Definitely.
If Trey Palmer wouldn't have dropped all those passes, I would have won.
Yeah, Justin, shit on our best player. There's the Justin I know and love.
Palmer.
That's Justin.
Cool.
I'm just competitive. I want to win.
You want to win. I got you. So Tyler has won the first category. Second category is passing touchdowns. The over-under was set at 25. God, I kill myself. 17 was what we ended up with, which was the ranking in the NCAA of 81st in the country and 6th in the Big Ten. Kind of surprised we ranked that high in the Big Ten, to be honest with you. And the winner was Justin. He guessed 22, which was 5 over. And so now we've got Tyler and Justin with the category win each. Next offensive category.
Definitely went one under on me. You did the dollar thing for me on that one,
he
Justin.
did. We'll bid $1,
Bob.
So rushing over under, I guess 205 yards a game, which was extremely optimistic because the actual was 123.33, 99th in the country, 10th in the Big Ten, and the winner was Scott. Woohoo! It was only 36 yards over what the actual number was. Man alive.
And that would only be like 24 more Grant carries per game.
Yeah, that's all. 24 more dances in the backfield per game. Yeah, I got
Or about 180 carries by Jock Ant.
Fair.
Yeah, there you go.
Transferred, man. Rest in peace, brother.
Damn it.
What a sad sight.
Okay, over under on the rushing TDs, I picked 26. Look, guys, there was no analysis that went into me coming up with these numbers. I literally, analysis.
Anal,
if you want
anal ISIS.
Anal meaning rear end, and ISIS meaning where you pull numbers from. So there you go.
Terrorizing your ass.
Exactly. 17 was the actual number, just like with the passing touchdowns. Winner was me. Yes. I finally won a category. I did not win one last time, if y'all remember. I did not win a single category last time.
We let you win this one.
I'm happy. Oh, I guess I got to go on to the next one now. Right? So there we go. 33 points a game was the over-under I set for scoring. 22.6 is what we actually scored. 103 in the NCAA, 11th in the Big Ten. And the winner, Justin, picked 31. So you were only 8.
I was more than a touchdown off, and I won this. This is bullshit. This is how bad we were last
We were
year.
all so bad.
We were god awful. We were so optimistic on offense, and we were horribly pessimistic, or really optimistic on defense too. Because then the numbers really go negative once we get to the defense. Spoiler alert. So there you go. Defense passing 232 per game is what I set the over-under on. We weren't too far off at 225.3. You take away those first 4 games, and I bet they would have come quite a bit under that 232. 70th in the Big Ten, 12th in the Big Ten, or 70th in the NCAA, 12th in the Big Ten. I won this one as well. So I have now won 2 categories along with Justin. Passing touchdowns, 17 was what the over-under was set. The Huskers gave up 18. 62nd in the NCAA, 11th in the Big Ten. Justin wins that one.
Damn, I'm good.
Yeah, you are. It's only off by 1.
13. Was I high when we recorded this?
No, you're just fucking dumb.
If you go back and you listen to it, Tyler, or I was like, oh my gosh, you're so freaking pessimistic here. Or optimistic here. I don't get it. Why are you so optimistic on this defense? Because we had 3 DBs gone. It was like, and Justin was the closest. Go figure.
Well, he was the most pessimistic, and
Because we were supposed to have this phenomenal pass rush that we ended up not having.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sheesh. There you go. Defensive rushing over under was 163 yards a game. Wasn't too far off at 189.08. 109th in the NCAA, 13th in the Big Ten. Winner, Derrick, wins his first category, being only 31 yards under. Ooh.
if we would have had a top
we
10
were all
defense like
very
I predicted,
pessimistic.
if we would have had that top 10 defense, man, I would have ran away with all these. So
Yeah, exactly.
the Huskers really let me down.
Yeah, and we probably would have been bowling too, so nobody would have cared.
Exactly. Yeah. We might have even still had Scott Frost, which I think most everybody on this stream would have cared about that. Defense, rushing touchdowns. The over-under was set at 14. We gave up 22. Ranked 93rd in the NCAA and 12th in the Big Ten. Tyler wins this one with a guess of 17.
Oh, he won $1, Bob.
There's where Justin was a little pessimistic, or the optimistic on the rushing TDs. See, Justin was optimistic on this one, if I remember right.
Yeah.
This
I bought
particular
into that
over-under game.
defense. That
So,
front
yep,
7.
we thought it was going to be better.
Yeah.
Thought that 4-3 was going to be the key. Apparently not. Scoring over-under was set at 27.5. Check that
nice.
out. We got right on it.
Wow.
27.6 is what Nebraska actually put out. 79th in the NCAA, 11th in the Big Ten. Winner, Derrick. It's now got 2 categories, if I'm counting correctly.
Wow. There's a barn burner here.
I was
Warren
right
Burner.
about my 0.5. I'll take that dub.
Yep. So, special teams. Total kickoff return yardage. I set the over-under at 402. And the Huskers actually returned it for 444 total yards. 67.
God, was this a real category that we picked?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And 5th in the Big Ten. Winner was Tyler. So now he's up to 3 categories along with Justin.
Bring back Bill Bush. Come on.
Bring back Bill. Bring back B squared. Let's see here. Special teams punt average yards per game by Nebraska's punter was set at 47.6. Old Boom Boom Bushini actually averaged 43.51, 37th in the country, 6th in the Big Ten. Check this out.
Ooh,
Damn,
Derrick wins with a
Derrick.
guess of 43.5, only 0.0
Damn,
one
buddy.
off.
I need to go back
yeah.
and listen to this because I'm convinced Derrick just threw a half yard on top of mine.
I'm pretty sure
You already won $1 to me there, Bob. Don't
Yeah.
hear it.
No bitching. So 3 Derrick, 3 for Scott, and I think both have 2. So that leaves us to the final category, which is win total over under of 6.5.
Oh, this is good.
We only guessed over or under, and there was only one of us who actually guessed under, which
Justin.
was Justin. So,
Boom!
Justin, you win a T-shirt that you can probably send to Tyler since it won't fit if you wear a large. Good Lord.
I think he wears like a
Oh,
medium.
Oops. A medium.
I don't know what he wears.
So there you go. You won 4 categories, Justin.
God
And
damn
the other
it,
two
good.
got 3. Scott and I had 2. And then I just decided, what the hell? I'll figure out how close we all came in point differential between the actual points added up amongst all the categories versus what we all guessed. And Justin, you won that too. You're only off by negative 23.72 points.
Send me 2 shirts.
So, yes, sir. Send you a T-shirt. Which do you want? Do you want the heather red, which is kind of a light red, almost a salmon, not quite pink? Or do you want the black with the dual tone
It's got to
generation?
go
red?
black. I can't have any pink in my life.
Can't have any pink in your life.
That sounds
I
bad.
thought you were married, so apparently you don't have any pink in your life. Wow.
Yep. Edit that part out.
Oh Lord, please forgive me for that one.
We're live, just so you know.
Oh, we are, aren't we? Oh my gosh, guys, this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed. Yeah, I'll see my way out. Exactly.
It's all pain.
It's all pain. Absolutely. This is fun. This is fun. This guys, I don't know when we'll do this again. Sometime in January. I'm not sure. I know Scott and I are going to be taking a break until then, for the Christmas holidays, all that good stuff. So let everybody know where to follow you guys.
You can follow us on Twitter at Husker Podcast. You can follow us on Facebook, Husker Cuzcast there. We don't tweet a lot. We don't Facebook a lot. We just podcast a lot. So follow us anywhere you get your podcasts. It doesn't matter. Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, wherever. We're everywhere. So check it out. Give us a review. Give us 5 stars. Give us a pity.
It always helps.
Yeah.
Anything helps, right?
Give us a pity rating.
Pity rating. Scott, how
And
about
tell us
you?
how much you
I know
love
you're
Ed
up
F. and
there.
Foley.
Oh, yeah.
Ed F. and Foley.
Ed F. and Foley. Oh yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter at ScottGenRedPod. That's Scott with 2 T's. The second one is in fact silent. So you can find me there. I post all things Husker and sometimes dad jokes. I'm not a dad, but I just am in preparation for that inevitable future. So yeah, you can follow me there. Shout me out. Whatever. Yeah, follow the podcast, subscribe, like it. Find us on Facebook and give us a rating.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. You can follow the podcast on social media by going to genredpod.com and click the links at the top of the page. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel to get all our past content and ring the bell for future content. And also like this video while you're at it. Helps folks find the show. It's also available as an audio show on your favorite podcast app every Monday morning at 8 a.m. Central. Just search for Generation Red, subscribe, and as Justin said, give us a rating and a review. It helps other folks find the show as well. And as I said earlier, Scott and I will be taking a break until sometime early next year. So early to mid-January, most likely I'll get with the cousins and we'll figure it out. Cuzcast, they will indeed join us for more Big Red Roundtable streams once a month, along with maybe a special guest or two from another podcast here and there. We also plan to revive the fan-centric Husker fan hangout streams that we started last off-season. No outlines, no show notes, nothing to do except sit down, hang out, and talk about Husker sports. So where you guys, the fans of Husker football and other sports, are the stars of the show. Email us at genredpod@gmail.com. And if you want to be a part of one of those streams, all you need is a smartphone and a pair of earbuds. Scott and I, check this out. We're moving on up. Going to be guests on the fan forum on the Go Big Redcast YouTube channel Thursday, which is this Thursday, December 15th at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Get subscribed on their YouTube channel or their favorite podcast apps so you don't miss this fun conversation with Honky. Should be a blast. That pretty much wraps up this show, guys. I really appreciate it. And on behalf of Justin, Derrick, and Tyler from the Husker Podcast, and Scott and I from Generation Red, we want to thank every single one of you for watching or listening to this show. And from our families to yours, Merry Christmas. And as far as I'm concerned, Jesus is the reason for the season and the only source for peace on earth and goodwill toward men, except Iowa. I hope they all get coal in their stockings. Anyway, there is absolutely no place like Nebraska.
Iowa's corn sucks big, fat camel pussy lips, and go Big Red.
Nothing like saying that right after you talk about Jesus. Nothing like it.
Well, I kind of blew that one myself. So, hey, see you all next year.